Good morning, Galaxians, and welcome to another live edition of the Galaxy CDs, Rocks, and Flips Reseller Talk podcast. My name is Ryan, and we are back in the Batcave today. Gonna do some listings and some casual chat this morning. Nothing specific to go over. I am going to be listing on Whatnot this morning. So if you've not seen kind of what the process is to create what I think they call a quality listing on Whatnot, that's what we're going to look at today. Special welcome to anybody who might be new, coming for the first time. I was on Kat, the Nurse Flipper's show last night and picked up about 40 subscribers. So welcome if you're here this morning for the first time. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming out last night. That was a good time. Let me hop into the chat here. Somebody let me know if you can hear me. I don't get over here into the Batcave as often as I used to, and I don't have any way to monitor the audio over here, so hopefully you can hear me. Mary McQueen, good morning and thank you. And thanks again for facilitating that. It was a fun show. We had a really nice chat actually after the show as well. Rod and Kat and I. So it was a good time. I appreciate it. We'll hopefully be doing that again. And let me know when you want me to be on your show. Mel Flips it, good morning. Media Picker, good morning. Everybody be quiet. He's in a meeting. Jim Lucas, good to see you. Big Dre, good morning. Good job on the Nurse Flipper show. Thank you so much. Watched on TV while I made drafts for my niche store. There you go. Yeah, that was a good show. It's an interesting how they field the questions. There's so many people at that show. I think when the show finished, there were like 350 some messages in the chat. I don't know how many of those were questions. We only got to maybe, I don't know, 15 or 20 questions over the span of a couple hours. So it's a really interesting process how they kind of pick and choose which things to talk about, and what's on people's mind was interesting as well. I was surprised there were questions about Bonanza and some stuff that you just don't really hear all that often, but it was a good time. Chuck Witt, good morning, my friend. How are you? Mel Flips it. Do you think the shipping thing that is getting changed for media that the big sellers use will help level the playing field for smaller shops on eBay? Hopefully. I don't know how much of a savings there is really with the bulk pre-sort, the 5-digit pre-sort, and with that bulk printed matter. I think that one in particular is quite a bit cheaper. So it'll be interesting to see like all these $3 to $5 free shipping books that I think a lot of folks are using those categories of shipping. We'll see if those prices go up or if they're just willing to continue to sacrifice that margin. I don't know how even at those prices you probably make it make sense. But it will be interesting, and it should, in theory at least, help level the playing field a little bit for those of us who are paying counter rate on media mail, to have them have to do the same now. So I think it's a good move. The post office obviously is continuing to do price increases. We're going to get another one in July, which I talked about on Monday's episode. Supposedly going to be roughly 7%. I still haven't pulled the spreadsheet to see just how bad it is for media sellers. But yeah, prices going up twice a year and discounts being eliminated left and right. You would think sooner rather than later the post office would be able to start making money. Lord Jake Ryan, good morning. Mary, thanks for the new subs. Yeah, it was good. I was hoping maybe to pick up 20 or 25 from the show. I really didn't have a good feel for what might happen there, but it was good. Overnight, it was a big jump. So very pleased with that. Media Picker saw the live last night. For some reason, I'm not the biggest fan of her. She's an acquired taste. I hear that from time to time from people. There are people who just absolutely love her, and there are other people that I don't know whether it's her personality. I don't know what it is. I always enjoy watching her show. She's got a lot of really insightful stuff. She's been doing this a while, but you could probably say the same about me. I'm probably not everybody's cup of tea. Sissy Moore, good morning. Great job last night. Thank you. First time I've seen Nurse Flipper in a couple years. She lives near you down in Florida. Yeah. No, her show is huge. So she's got her own little YouTube empire, 2 channels and all kinds of stuff going on. Very cool. Let's see. Media Picker. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Den Decor Depot. Good morning. Mary McQueen, very welcome. Glad it worked out. Yes, we definitely have to schedule that. Just let me know. Are the shows on what platform, Nurse Flipper? Help me with that. I'm not sure what you're asking there. Jim Lucas, nothing would make me happier than for the playing field to be leveled for smaller booksellers like myself. Yeah, no, that would be good. You're always going to have probably those huge sellers that are willing to sell for a couple of cents a profit because they're moving so much volume. But if you could just equalize the playing field from shipping, any of them that maybe are getting a deal from eBay because they move so much volume, you'd like to see that maybe fixed as well if that's going on. Because small sellers are what drives those platforms. So I definitely am with you on that. Paper Gold, let's get ramped up and excited. We are selling books. We are. I shipped out, I don't know, 16 or 18 this morning. I've already had several orders come through since then. So yeah, it's been pretty good. Den Decor Depot, what evolutions are you looking at for your business this year? For what Bonanza was looking to charge, I'm focusing on a Shopify store instead. I want to get all my music over to Discogs as well. So yeah, for me, probably the biggest thing I'm working on for this year is to try to figure out how to make Whatnot more successful, more volume, better ticket sales. I need to start taking some better stuff over there. I'm working on, you can see over my shoulder here, there's a giant tub of cookbooks. I'm going to try something different with a cookbook sale here in a few weeks. So really working with that. Discogs, my only thing with Discogs has been, I know a guy who sells over there, and his biggest issue is that the buyer base is super finicky about the condition, particularly of vinyl. So I've just kind of stayed away from it. I try to be really cautious with my grading anyway, but it's just a fight I'm not interested in having. So kind of for the same reason I stay off Amazon, just that the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me. But let us know if you get over there how you're doing. Bonanza is an interesting one. They lost so many sellers with the fiasco with the shipping. What was that, a year ago? They've since rescinded all that, but again, the volume just isn't really there. And now they want to charge listing fees. They want to raise their final value fee. It's a really tough sell for me for the volume that they do. Again, maybe it was just the category I was in, but 2 books a month over there just wasn't worth it with when they got purchased or whatever it was that happened. They got a new CEO and all the changes that rolled out, as you observed, just didn't really work for me. So that's one of the reasons I focused on Whatnot, was to try to find another outlet to move some stuff. Den Decor is also looking to fully utilize Vendoo. I probably need to do more with List Perfectly than I do, but I'm happy with the workflow. It works for me, so I just kind of, I don't want to say I'm averse to change, but I just don't want to change that process right now. But there are so many tools that are available. If I was starting over with List Perfectly, I would probably do it quite differently. Like Kat talked about on the show last night, wherever you start your listing, importing them into the LP catalog and then out from there, from wherever you want to go, probably makes more sense than the way I'm doing it, which I'm not putting anything into their catalog. I'm leaving everything separately. I'm just individually using that software to move the items from eBay to the other platforms. So I'm not able to take advantage of the auto delist and some of those features. But I was 10,000 listings deep before I really figured out what was going on there. That's a lot to go back and change. So Mel Flips It says, that's how it is for my personality. People either really like me or I'm nails on a chalkboard. There's no in between. There you go. And you know, if you're not getting negative comments and stuff on your YouTube channel or your TikToks or whatever, you're probably not doing it right. But yeah, nobody is for everybody. Where was the show at? I've seen her on TikTok. I don't know where you were at. That's on her YouTube channel. She does a Tuesday night YouTube live, lasts about 2 hours. Generally, it's her, and usually it's Rod, who is the co-host, and then they generally have two guests on. Um, Yesterday it was myself and Yvonne Thrifty Rich who was on, so it was a good show. But yeah, they try to do every Tuesday night from 8 to 10 Eastern on Kat's YouTube channel. There you go, YouTube Live, Paper Gold, whatnot is the answer. Yes. Den Decor do very well with spiral bound church cookbooks. I've talked about those a lot. I just actually listed some last week, I think. I'm somewhere here. I've got a box of cookbooks that I'm working my way through as well. They can take a while to sell. Generally, I'm able to get them for a quarter, 50 cents. Some of them will sell for $12, $15, $18. So really good return on investment. It's one of those things I've mentioned before. You know, you get a grandson or a granddaughter whose grandmother has a recipe in that book. Whatever the case is, there's a certain amount of nostalgia for those, and people buy them. I rarely go a week without selling some of those. So when I'm out at sales, I'm always looking for those local, whether it be church or school cookbooks or local community organizations, any of those kind of things. I will usually grab those. You can usually get a big stack of them super cheap. Mel flips it. Can you share that link for, I assume you're talking about for Kat's YouTube channel. So with that, it looks like the last of the chat. So I'm going to try to get signed in here. It looks like I lost my connection maybe. Let me see what we're doing. Let me get out of here. Try to reset this. So I can show you how I list over on Whatnot. I don't know why it disconnected. There we go. Yes. Yeah, it was on Nurse Flipper's live last night. Here we go. Man, that was a bunch of drama. I don't know what's going on. StreamYard is running exceptionally slow this morning for some reason. So I've got a tub here. I'm working on a religious book show for, I think, 2 weeks from now. I've got 20 or 21 books, and I'm just putting up listings for those. I usually preload everything a week or two in advance so people can go in and see and pre-bid on the books if they want. I'm doing these all $1 starts just to see what happens. So Whatnot has a couple of different ways you can list. A temporary listing, which is just a quick and dirty, or what they call a quality listing, where you have to have at least one photo and some more information. That's usually what I use. Allows me to cheat a little bit when I'm on the live, because I can then pin that listing and it's on my screen and it has all the information, so I don't necessarily have to look in the book to find all the details. So let's just walk through this one. They are a little funny. For some reason, they drop all the photos down. They cut off the bottoms. You got to be real careful about where you take your picture, but for Whatnot, I don't take pictures of the inside. I don't go through all that because obviously live I'm going to be able to show the book. So if there's, like in this one, there is, I don't know if you can see that, there's writing. on the front end paper. So I'll show that on the live, but I don't feel the need to show pictures of that also with this listing because I'm going to cover all that in the show. So this is kind of a in between a full-blown eBay listing and just a generic listing. And again, I try to put in kind of the same information that I would on eBay: title, author, publisher, date, and anything special about it. Is it a hardcover? Is it a paperback? Is it ex-library? Whatnot actually allows you 100 characters for the title, so you can get a lot in there. And then I just cut and paste that into the description. Again, I don't put anything more really in there. And then they have their version of item specifics. Not nearly as many, thankfully. And a lot of stuff they do is like broader. They don't have specific weights. They don't have specific years. They've got categories by decade and so on. So it's a little bit of a different setup. Not quite the level of detail that you have to deal with on eBay. They don't have all the publishers in. Their mix of genres and topics could probably be a little more in-depth. Again, they're not a specialty site for books, so it's probably not that big a deal. But again, I'm doing all just $1 starts and auctions on these. Again, you can see, if you can see on the screen, the weights. They have all these increments: 0 to 1, 1 to 3, 4 to 7. So sometimes when you do multi-item purchases and they combine shipping, they end up being a little higher probably than they should be, because this book, for instance, is 9.5 ounces in a poly mailer, in a bubble mailer. So it's going to fall in that 8 to 11 category. But if I put another book in there and put it in the same bubble mailer, it'll probably fall under what 2 times that would be. So they're making some bank over there on the shipping at Whatnot, which is fine. We're all here to make money. All right, let's see here. Back in the chat, Mel found it. Good, good, good. Whatnot I saw on the app has a practice mode, I think, right? Yeah, there is a private mode that you can do so that you can kind of do some dry runs over there. I've not used it. I just jumped in and did the sink or swim method. But Mike Metko, hi Ryan, just checking in. Liked your appearance on Kat's show last night. Thank you. Thank you very much. Already chatted a little bit with Mary about getting on your show, so let me know when you want to do that. Please repeat the shipping thing, but talk slower. I do that. I get excited. Talk a little fast. I'll do another one here, and I'll show you that how that works. The Woman's Bible. Oops. Sorry, my dog is rustling around in her kennel up there, if you can hear that. She's ready to get outside. It's a nice day here. Again, title, author, year, what kind of book it is. Oops, let me do this. For genre, for religion, I usually just put other. So again, if you can see on the screen, their shipping profiles, they have 0 to 1 ounce, 1 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 11, 12 to 15, 1 pound. They have those separated because Ground Advantage has a difference at, it's actually all the way out, I think, to 15.9, but they only do it to 15. And then 1 to 2 pounds, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 6. Now you can set up your own shipping profiles, but if you use theirs, you can see they've got some pretty broad ranges. So again, for instance, this book in a bubble mailer on my scale is 1 pound, 3 ounces. So it's going to fall in that 1 to 2 pound range. If I do another one that is that same weight, so 1 pound, 3 ounces, the two of those combined are 2 pounds, 6, but it will probably charge the higher rate because it's going to read those, potentially at a higher rate. So it's going to charge too much for shipping, particularly when you get into those categories where it starts to get really broad, 7 to 9, 10 to 14. You get a couple of books that maybe combined would weigh just under 3 pounds, and it'll take it to the 3 to 4 pound category. So again, they're pocketing that difference. The buyer pays shipping, so it's not costing you as a seller anything, but having those kind of broad 3 to 4 ounce leaps or multiple pound leaps can make a big difference when somebody buys a whole bunch of stuff. They're still saving versus buying an individual book, but it can get to be a little expensive. And you can set up like discounted shipping offers as well over there. So there's a lot that you could do to try to overcome that, but it is kind of an issue. It's the same thing with Mercari. With their media mail rates, they have ranges of weights rather than the actual weights, and in a lot of cases they're overcharging for shipping if you use their labels. Let's get back here into the chat, having a live hangout on our channel tonight. Then yeah, that's right, you guys are heading to Nashville for next week. Yeah, next week or the following, whatever works for you guys. I'm usually Wednesday night, unfortunately, is not good for me. I have standing plans on a Wednesday, but yeah, just keep me posted. Hack for 15 to 15.9 is to use pirate ship instead of eBay. Right, that's what I do. Again, most of mine's go in media mail, so all of that is considered 1 pound anyway. But if you are shipping something that's Ground Advantage, I talked about that on a show when this all first came out, when they introduced that different rate. And eBay has never, to my knowledge, fixed that. They still have the cutoff at 15, where if you use pirate ship, I assume it's the same on Shippo or ShipStation or any of those, where the actual rate goes all the way out to 15.9. So that's why I love those third-party shipping platforms. So when I buy 2 items, I seem to get a discount on shipping, but does Whatnot for sellers? It actually combines shipping during the auction. Yes, it does. It automatically does that. You don't have to do anything. When the auction is over, Whatnot will generate a label based on the combined weights of the items as per the ranges that you selected when you did the listing. So again, that's how it can end up being a little bit off. I've never had a case where it was under. Where the charge was under, but I've had multiple cases where the weight was quite a bit under. Miss Lachey, good morning. Good morning to everyone in the chat. Swamp Picker, hello. Welcome. Good to see you. And hello to Mike as well. Yep. Good to see everybody out this morning. Let me know. I do this on Whatnot, but I don't know that I've asked that here. I know some of you have already mentioned, and I know where you're at, but let me know in the chat where you're checking in from this morning. I'm always curious where people are at. Let's do another one of these. Again, a lot of these were from, if you were on my last religious Whatnot show, which I think was yesterday. Is that right? I can't even remember. I've been so busy. It's multiple YouTube shows, was on another show. I can't keep everything straight. These were all mostly part of a big church buyout that I did, abandoned church library with ended up being almost 500 books for $100. So again, if these sell at auction for $1, I'm going to make a little bit of money on them, and it's better than having to donate them or figure out what to do with them. These are mostly books that would have sold on eBay for $8 or less that I'm trying to do on Whatnot to maybe generate a little bit quicker flip on than what I would do if I put it on eBay and maybe sat on it for a year or more. If you are selling on Whatnot, let me know what your experience has been. Max Paper Gold, if you're still here, I know what your experience has been. We talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago, but if there's anybody else selling over there, let me know what category you're selling in and what kind of success you're seeing. Rod, who was on the live yesterday with Kat, is doing super well over there with sports cards, trading cards. This doesn't have any library markings on it, but I know it's from that same lot, so I'm going to go ahead and mark it as ex-library. I'm calling all of these pretty much fair condition. It's got a little bit of wear on the dust jacket. So I tend to, as I mentioned earlier, grade conservatively. I'd rather this be in good condition and I call it fair and the customer get it and be super happy with that than the other way around. And again, $1. This is probably a pound. All right, let me hop back up here into the chat. Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Welcome. Thank you. Operani on eBay, Wilmore, Kentucky. Whereabouts is that? How are you close to the Cincinnati area, or are you way down somewhere else in Kentucky? The frozen tundra of the Pocono Mountains. Is it still cold up there? It was 36 here this morning. You know, it's the middle of April. I'm tired of the 36s. Powell, Ohio. Yes. I've been there many times. Lived in Columbus for gosh, a couple of different occasions for a number of years, so I'm familiar with that area. Mike Metco saying to Swamp Picker, looking forward to meeting up. Saying hello to Mary. Kapow Eagle, on the subject of cross listings, will you do a show on using lists perfectly with Etsy and other platforms? I left Vendoo to use LP and want to know how you were using it. Let me, I think I did that a couple of weeks ago, but I'll do another one. Next time we are live, if I'm not doing an interview with someone, we'll do that. I'll kind of walk back through that process. I'll have some stuff preloaded and show you how I use it. Again, I'm using it strictly to move items from one platform to the others. I'm not using List Perfectly kind of as a inventory control software, which you can do. And if you pay for that level of service, I'd probably recommend that you do. I just don't use it that way. That allows you to take advantage of the auto delist when something sells, which is probably pretty handy, especially if you're doing a large volume of sales. I do 25 or 30 a day, so it's not really a huge deal for me to go in real quick when I get a notification that I've sold something and delist it from the other two sites that I'm on. But I use it strictly to move inventory from eBay, which is where I start my listings, to the other sites. But we'll do that either next week or the week after. I will show you my process for that, which is not necessarily the right one, but it is it is mine. Mary says hello to Mike. Carl the Lazy Reseller. Hey, Glenn. Mel Flips at Oregon Mountains. There you go. By the Cali border, about 40 minutes away from Crater Lake National Park. Nice. Big Dre just opened my niche store and sold 2 items this month, just under $200 total sales. Every journey begins with that first step. Good for you. Congratulations. Reseller Locker Room next. Yeah, let us know when you're going to be on any of those shows. Obviously, if you're not sharing those meetups with Mike Metco's meetups, do that so that they can get them publicized out there on Instagram and everywhere else for you. Let's see here. Pixel Tail in Michigan. We'll be traveling down 75 through Ohio to go to Nashville meetup. There you go. Any good places for dinner off 75 in the Cincinnati area? As you get in, probably towards downtown, which I don't get to very often, there probably are. If you're coming through kind of the Westchester area, if you like Texas Roadhouse, there's a Texas Roadhouse literally right off of 75 at the Tylersville Road exit. That's probably a pretty good stop. Operating on eBay, 30 minutes south of Lexington. That's a bit down there. Pixeltail used to live in Columbus. Nice area. Yeah, Columbus. I lived there in the 80s. The town is almost unrecognizable since then. There's been so much growth. It's crazy what Columbus looks like today. Decor Depot says it's brutal, barely 40 now, 30-mile-an-hour wind. Yeah, we had big wind yesterday. It's not too bad today. The older I get, the thinner my blood gets. Yeah, I don't do well with the cold. Down here in the Bat Cave during the winter is awful. And it's still, to be fair, it hasn't warmed up all that much. I'm still clearly wearing my flannel here in the basement in the middle of April. A balmy 62. I would take 62. Absolutely. That's pretty good. I think that's about where we're supposed to get to today for a high. Cameron D in Western New York usually share the same weather. Miss Lachey checked in on a live show this week. Kids screaming in the background, wife cooking on the stove in the background, lasted 3 minutes and was out. That has been a very interesting experience for me on Whatnot. I've attended a lot of shows to see kind of the difference between like the really high production value shows and shows like that. And it's interesting because even shows like that still manage to be successful. I've seen some shows where the audio is just terrible. The voice is cutting in and out. There's music cutting in and out. There's whatever, like with that case, kids or animals in the background, just all kinds of stuff that you would think would be super distracting. And there'll still be 18, 20, 25 people in the show and they'll still be buying stuff. I'm with you. That would drive me insane. I can't, I can't spend any time in those kind of shows. But it just goes to show, like I've talked about the last couple times we've talked about Whatnot, the disparity in businesses that are successful over there from a show like that, which just appears to be total chaos. And you theoretically could make the argument not very professional, all the way to shows that are, you know, high production, multi-camera, great sound, graphics, whatever. And either of those can be successful. Whether you choose to be on camera or not doesn't seem to make a difference on Whatnot. There's many sellers. You would never have any idea what they look like unless you happen to follow them on Instagram or something and they've got a picture of themselves, because they never show themselves live. The view is from kind of their perspective down to wherever they have the book or the item. And those shows are just as good as the guys who are standing up, holding up the jerseys or the tennis shoes or whatever it is, and are super high energy. It's amazing to me how, as is true with reselling kind of in general, how many different ways there are to do it and still manage to be successful. Swamp Picker says hello to Carl. Miss Lachey, doesn't matter the platform, professionalism will always show. but doesn't always necessarily negatively impact some people, which I find weird. Because like I said, I'm with Miss Lachey. I could not. When I was in like retail management, I would always talk about, it's the simple things that matter the most, because if you don't get even the simple things right, how can I trust you to do the really complicated things? And for shows like this, my feeling is the same. I If the show appears to be haphazard, chaotic, maybe unprofessional, as a buyer, I would not be trusting of my item getting to me in the condition I want it to. It starts to throw up red flags. So for me, it's been worthwhile putting forth kind of that extra effort to do a little bit more, to present my show as a little more professional. But again, some of those places are just killing it over there. I think I missed that one. Mel Flips it says, the Den Decor Depot, it looks beautiful there. It's above freezing here, but can snow any time of the year. I would not be a fan of that at all. No, I don't need the snow. I don't do like outdoor sports. In the winter, I don't ski. I don't ice skate. I don't do any of that. I never did. When I was a kid, I played basketball in school, and we were forbidden from the coach to like ski or skate or do any of that, because he didn't want us to get, a twisted ankle or whatever and then not be able to play. So I just never learned to appreciate those outdoor sports. So no snow for me. Mike says Mary does a great job of keeping the community informed of what's going on. Yeah, if you're not following Mike Metco meetups over on Instagram, go find them. The wealth of different lives and different meetups that they are promoting over there, maybe in your area, maybe not, but all of that information being gathered together in one place is super helpful if you're inclined to want to go to those or go attend a live like last night's show. Really, really cool thing they're doing over there. Chuck Witt, 73 and sunny with a hint of ocean breeze here on Hilton Head Island. Very nice. Very nice. I've got some friends that have a second home down there, and I believe that's where they're at as well. I'll have to give them, give them some static about the weather. Then Decor Depot says to Mel, there are a lot of beautiful places there for sure. Bushkill Falls, Grand Canyon of PA, Jim Thorpe, just to name a few. I need to get out more. I'm in Southwest Ohio, and there's nothing super exciting here. It's pretty enough, I guess, but what do we got here? Mike Metco says, production not so important, good personality. Audience is very supportive. Right. There's an audience for all different kinds of styles. Like somebody said earlier, that they don't really vibe necessarily with Kat the Nurse Flipper's show. That's totally fine. There are people, I lose subscribers every week that people clearly aren't vibing with my show for one reason or another, whether it's how I present information or the content, or it's just too dry, not high energy enough. It could be anything. But finding your audience, finding your tribe is what's really important. And there's a tribe out there for all of us. Cameron D, I guess showing up to the game gives you baseline success regardless. Yeah, that's showing up is, as they say, half the battle or more. We talked a little bit about that last night on the show. Somebody was asking about, after having been out of reselling for 4 years, what kind of advice would the panel have for somebody that wanted to get back in? And my advice was, just get started, just like you would if you were brand new. Get in, learn the platforms, observe if you want to do whatnot, watch some shows and see the different levels of types of shows and what you want to do, what you can incorporate into your own personality and style, and what you can do with the equipment that you have. Not everybody has a super nice microphone and great cameras and all that. A lot of people just have their phone, and you can be successful with just that. But just taking that first step, getting beyond the fear of whatever, putting yourself out there, fear of failure, learn from those mistakes. I think Kat mentioned her first Whatnot show was Sideways, or her first YouTube video maybe was Sideways. So even seasoned people make mistakes trying something new, and it's the learning process from each of those that makes you better and will ultimately make you more successful. I'll get off my soapbox. Den DeCortipo says, that's why I haven't done a Whatnot show yet. Worked in radio in a previous life, and I'd be hours into show prep. Right. And again, like for me, there was a real big learning curve. I run my show through open broadcast software, OBS, and getting that set up and getting that run through my Stream Deck so that I could call up the graphics, and then setting up my Rodecaster so I could do the sound effects and all that. There was a big process to get that worked out. But once it was done and set up, essentially I log in, tell it I'm going to be broadcasting through OBS. It connects. I turn on my mic, I turn on my camera, and I'm ready to go. There's not, once that initial prep is done, it saves kind of all that, and you can just get on with life. The other option, of course, is to just not worry about all that stuff. And it's hard. Like I like the gadgets. I like the tech. I like messing around with all that stuff. So for me, part of the fun of having that show was the act of creating all that stuff, making all the goofy little graphics that I use, and finding the sound effects that go with those graphics. I really enjoyed that part of the process, but other people would feel like that's a complete waste of time. But for me, it was one of the things that made the whole thing worthwhile. So Mary McQueen says, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. The snow keeps people from moving here. Also, snow is amazing for bird watching. There you go. Magic Aces, hello. Welcome to the show. Again, anybody that has anything they would like to discuss, let us know in the chat, and we'll do that. Since we're at a break there, I'm going to hop back in here and do another listing, because I have a whole tub here I got to get through at some point today. The Holy Land in the Time of Jesus. This is a Horizon Caravel book. I just listed a whole bunch of these over on eBay, different types, but all from this same series. But because I had this religious book show coming up, I held this one out specifically for that show. These are some cool old books from like the 1960s, covering a huge range of topics. And again, same thing. The title, there's multiple authors in this, so I didn't do an author, but I noted that it was the Horizon Caravel book. It's an illustrated hardcover and the year it was published. So that is about as much information as you would expect people would need. And especially, again, given that it's going to be live and we'll have an opportunity to show all of the details. I just put in mixed authors when there's multiples. Who is this? This is American Heritage, isn't it? Yeah. I'll call that history. Again, with the dollar. Again, that one's 1 pound, 6 ounces. When Whatnot calculates that for multiple shipping, it's going to count that as 2 pounds because it's in the 1 to 2 pound category. So that's where you end up getting in trouble, because it counts that at the maximum, which in this case is 2 pounds. So if you get 2 of those, it should be £3, but it's going to calculate it as 4 and charge that next higher rate, which again, it's paid by the buyer. They know that kind of going in, but it is it's a big source of extra revenue for the folks over at Whatnot. Recommerce Dave, welcome. Good to see you. What do you use to create the image ad for the show? So I am a Canva Pro subscriber. I pay whatever it is, 120 bucks a year for Canva Pro. I do that for all of my thumbnails, all of the graphics that I use for my shows, all these backdrops for StreamYard that I use, all of the graphics for Whatnot, anything like that. I create all of those in Canva Pro. It is, I love that software for what amounts to 10 bucks a month. I more than get my money out of it. If you're not doing a lot of like content creation and you don't need all that, it probably is overkill. But for what I do, creating multiple thumbnails every week, a lot of my Instagram posts, I'll take multiple pictures and import them into Canva and then create one image where I can add the text or add animations, or I mean, it's a really fully featured graphics program. They do have a free version that you can do a lot of the same things with. So if you're interested in that, just look up Canva, and you can do a lot of stuff there. And it's really a powerful tool for creating that sort of stuff. Big Dre says, I can't remember, does promoted listings take their cut only in the first 30 days? And if buyers purchase something else after viewing the promoted listing, that will count to get their cut. That is correct. So that cookie that they get from clicking on your promoted listing here in the US is good for 30 days. And it is supposed to apply to everything that they purchase during that 30 days. So if they leave the site and come back later and buy that item or a different item, eBay calculates that as a promoted listing sale. I don't remember the exact details. They changed it in Germany, and I don't remember. They've changed the way they eliminated that halo attribution, and like almost everything now counts as a promoted listing click. I'd have to go back and look at the details of that, but I did a whole episode on that a couple of months ago when they rolled out that change. I haven't heard anything else about how that's working in Germany, but it was certainly going to increase the number of sales that were attributed to promoted listings. Big Dre says, also, if you delist, relist, are you restarting the chance for promoted listings to get their cut within 30 days? That's a good question. I would assume no. Well, I take that back. If you delist and sell similar, that is a totally new listing. If you do delist and relist, I believe they would count that as the same listing, and it probably would still be attributed. I won't swear to that, but that would be my guess. Canva Pro, yes. I don't actually have an affiliate link. I think I looked into that, and there was some kind of requirement that I did not fit, that I wasn't eligible to use it. So, but it's a great program. Love it. And that looked like the last message. So let's do another one here. Trying to make some progress on this. I got 20 of these to do for today. An old paperback. These Mentor books. Some of these can do pretty well. This is religion and philosophy. I will usually try to do kind of those two and even mythology. I'm pretty sure there's a book in here about mythology. I will kind of lump that all into the same show. That thing is in fair condition. That is new. American Library is the publisher of those. We'll call that history. That one is good. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Good luck. Yes, this show is 2 weeks away, I think. I'm way out in front getting these listed. Yeah, it's always a crapshoot. Some of these sales, like yesterday, I had 20 religious books in the sale. I made my first run through where I do like the full production. I read the blurb on the back of the book and kind of talk about the book and show all of it. And I think I sold maybe 6 out of 20. Then I take a second run through them where I basically just hold them up and ask if anybody wants to see this. If you're late to the show, do you want to see this run? I'll run it again. Otherwise, no. And I just move on. And I went through those and didn't get any takers. But then there were 2 real late arrivals to the show who were looking at, because you can see what's still available in the shop. And they started in the chat saying, could you run this? Could you run that? Could you run the other? And I ended up selling another half a dozen books kind of at the last minute, right when I was ready to leave. So I usually try to stick around for those because people just come in and out all the time on those whatnot shows. And again, there wasn't a lot of money in it. It ended up being, I think, 11 books for a total of $13. But they were all books that I was into for less than a quarter a piece. So I still squeaked out a little bit of money. I made my money back on those books, plus a little bit of profit. Plus I got 6 or 8 new followers over on Whatnot. So again, you start accumulating all that and hopefully it leads to some greater success down the road. Jim Lucas says, in the religious books, do you find a lot of highlighting and underlining? Probably more often than in regular books, but it's not a huge percentage. Like of the books I did yesterday, of the 20, there were 2 that had underlining in them. I don't think any of these do. None of the ones that we've looked at so far have had any, but you will find that particularly a lot of Bibles, I'll find underlining and notations quite frequently. Some of the more kind of religious history and texts, a lot of times like with a textbook, you'll find like a lot of highlighting and underlining and notes for the first third of the book. And then it really tapers off after that. Most people don't ever seem to get to the end of the books. But yeah, do see it a lot in religious books. Recommerce Dave says, for your Whatnot shows, how much time does it take to prepare the listings? Well, you've kind of seen, I'm going to do one more here for us. It might take, like, as I'm doing my eBay listings, if I find something that I want to do as part of a Whatnot show, I'll set it to the side, and I've got, like you can see over my shoulder, I've got that big tub that's full of those old cookbooks that I didn't want to list on eBay that I'm going to create listings on Whatnot for and do a show for those. So from that standpoint, they're already pulled, they're already sorted by category because I've got those separate. That's cookbooks, I've got religious books over here, I've got history books on the other side of the curtain there. So they're all segregated, and when I get to the number that I want to do a show with, then I'll create a show, make the graphic. That takes a few minutes to make the image and the little video that I put up. Create the show on Whatnot takes a couple minutes, and then these 20 listings with the photos, they might take a couple of minutes a piece. So a normal show with 20 books, I probably have well less than an hour of total prep time, including taking the photos, creating the listings, setting up the show and then getting ready. And then essentially what I'll do is I'll take this tub over into the studio, stack them up. Again, all the prep work was done for my setup in advance. So all I've got to do is turn everything on, log everything in, and I'm ready to go. So that is not really time consuming. And then the show takes about an hour. So all in, maybe 2 hours total from start to the end of the show. And then another, whatever it takes, 20 minutes to get everything packed and shipped. So Big Dre, have you considered making a niche bookstore that features either your best-selling category of books or the cream of the crop, highest price books? I've not. I think about, do I want a second store? Do I want, like when I was doing Etsy, I had like vintage books that I'd been doing for a long time, and then I started doing the print on demand stuff, and I was like, do I want a separate store for that? And my decision point was, I've spent, whatever the case is, on Etsy it was a year, on eBay it goes back 20 plus years, building that business, getting the feedback, getting the reputation, getting the followers, and starting a new store or a new account for some specialty items that technically still really fit into the category that I'm already known for. I'm just not sure for me that would work. If I had like a completely new niche, like if I decided that I was really going to focus on something non-media and I wanted to kind of create a separate business on its own, I would probably consider that. But for what I'm doing now, I've already kind of established myself as a fairly significant bookseller, particularly on eBay, and moving those books onto another account, for me, I just fear that it would be self-defeating. So I'd be curious what anybody else thinks. I know you just started, is it you that started a niche store? Having something separate, again, if it was a completely separate category, I would absolutely consider. But for my books, you've already got a significant number of followers of the store, moving those somewhere else, and then having to try to retrain people. Oh, I've got this other account where I keep all my best books, I just think would be self-defeating. I see a lot of people, like even on YouTube, they've got 2 channels. It's obviously still them, but the content is so different. Like Kat was talking about, she's got 2 channels. One is like kind of her thrifting adventures, and the other is more like tutorials and her live. So if the content is differentiated enough, 2 channels probably makes sense. But same thing, you've spent all this time building up your primary channel. Now you want to start a second one and try to drive people over there. My experience has been, it's been hard enough to get people to find one channel, let alone try to do 2. We're at about an hour here, so if anybody has anything else they would like to discuss, let me know in the chat. We'll do one more listing here before we call it a day. Let me know in the chat if you have any other questions or comments. I do have a Whatnot show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. It is history and military books. There is a mix of, I started doing an eBay listing here. What am I doing? Too many photos. You get into that habit, that workflow. Picture. Just, you get me talking and I get myself all distracted. Then next week I have 2 Whatnot shows, Tuesday and Thursday, both at 11 a.m. And I think both of those are vintage kids books. Got a bunch of really cool old kids books. That category actually is picking up for me. The last couple of shows I've done with the vintage kids books has actually been pretty strong. And it was the same kind of thing. I had a late arrival at one of the shows that was asking me to go back and rerun things that they had missed, and ended up selling a lot of extra books. Did I spell his name right up there? I did. Sometimes I don't trust myself. Actually, that's probably going to end up. All right, looks like there's a bunch of stuff in the chat. So let me find where I was at here. Cameron D, everyone get your taxes done. I became the queen of Schedule C yesterday. Yes, yesterday was the big day. I had done mine. I think we talked about on this show a while ago. I did mine about a month ago because I knew I was going to owe. Not a ton. It's like $700, but which means I had a better year than I anticipated when I did my estimated taxes. So that's all good. That's a good problem to have. But knowing that I was going to have to pay quarterly estimated taxes also yesterday, I went ahead and filed about a month ago. So I had two separate payments rather than having to make a big kind of all at once payment yesterday. But yes, it was amazing following different groups on Facebook and seeing like over the weekend people asking, really basic questions about how to handle expenses and stuff. They had not even started to really even prep to do their taxes. And that's a big undertaking. Taxes as a small business owner are no joke. It is a complicated process. So Mel Flips it says, agree, had a defunct Etsy store with 6 sales and reviews from commercial use digital downloads. Renewed that store and I'm switching to kids' vintage books with a few downloads. So much easier because it's established. Yep, and unless it's way out in left field in terms of what's in there, I would try to capitalize on the existing reputation and the account, especially on Etsy, for instance, where the hoops you have to jump through to open a new account are also a lot more than they were in the past. There's a fee, if I'm not mistaken now, to open an Etsy store as well. So there's a lot of advantages to just continuing to use your existing store there. Big Ray, I only started my niche store this month, but already have a follower, 2 sales, and a lot of watchers. One of the items had been listed for months in the old store, but sold right away in the new store. And again, is that because it was a fresh listing? If you had done a delist sell similar, would the result have been the same? There's so many variables, but you always like to see that when you've got something old that you do something with, you take some kind of action with, and then bang, it sells. Big Dre says, after 100 listings, I'll promote my store and see what happens. Are you going to do the actual promotion of the store rather than of the listings? Because I just do the promoted listing general campaign for all my listings, and eBay keeps hammering me, of course, to do the promoted store. If that's what you're going to do, let us know, and let us know how that works out once you turn it on. I don't know anybody. If you're here in the chat still and you've done that, let us know how that worked, because it's not something I've really looked into, the actual store promotion rather than individual item promotions. Mary McQueen says, to Cameron, did mine in March, which was late for me. Yesterday, I was very glad to be able to just use the kiosk for shipping and not have to stand in that long line. I do mine all electronically. I don't mail anything but books. I can't tell you the last time I mailed a check for a payment. I pay literally everything, all my utilities, my house payment, my car payment. It's all, if not auto pay, it's all online. So I don't mail anything but my shipments. Find it's easier to use what you have than to start something new. Mike Metco, thank you. I appreciate you coming out. We will see you next week. Mel Flips it, says the Cameron was reminded to update my records quarterly, but they got done. That's the key. Miss Lachey says, see the niche store for specialty items. My experience has been overall people shop items, not stores. Thought about it briefly to separate out clothing, but still not sold on it. Yeah, again, I'm with you. Like my eBay store has been, it wasn't super active for 5 or 6 years, from like 2012 to 2019, I really didn't do a whole lot with it, but it had been established clear back in 2000. I've sold nearly 25,000 items out of that eBay store total, probably 23,000 of those in the last handful of years. But the store's only got 800 and some followers, which is not really, given the volume of transactions I've done, a huge, huge number. So I'm with you. I think you get that loyal. Again, I've got some people who are regular repeat buyers who are following the store and they see a new listing and they'll buy it. Now I can see that they're a repeat buyer on eBay. So I know there are some people that are taking advantage of those features, but I think most people are looking for items. Most people they want a particular book or a particular style of shirt or a particular piece of vintage electronics, and they go looking for that. If they're a collector of those things, then maybe if they find a store that they had a really good experience of, then maybe they become a follower. But again, in my case, the number of sales versus the number of followers would indicate that most people are only looking for an item, not a consistent supply of those types of items. If that makes sense. Playroom, good morning. Welcome. Pamela Reeves, thank you for the kudos on the great job on the show. Over the years, Kat has shared lots of valuable information. Yeah, she and her guests are generally diverse. They're all from like different genres of selling, sell on different platforms. So you really, when you go to her shows, you get a wealth of information. As I say pretty regularly, you know, you watch a show like this, you watch Kat's show, you watch Don, the auction professor, whoever, you watch multiple shows, you'll see different ways to do this. There's no one right way to do it. And her show in particular, having 4 different people every time, you get this wide range of opinions. We talked yesterday about accepting offers, and like all 4 of us did it slightly differently. One person wants to negotiate every offer. I don't want to negotiate every offer, so I have auto decline set up. Kat used to do auto decline, but she doesn't. But she's got a set percentage of offer that she wants to do. So you really get to see a diversity of opinion on how to run a business, and then you can again choose the things that make sense to you. But yeah, her show is fantastic, and there were several people who commented that she's like their guru, their hero for reselling, that she's been so helpful, and her show has been so helpful to them. Cameron D says to Mary, I always slide into home plate. Yep, whether you get it done at the last minute or get it done a month in advance, as long as you get it done. It's the prep. It's one of the things I harp on all the time about keeping good records throughout the course of the year so that you get to tax time and you're not having to like rummage through shoe boxes of receipts and all that kind of stuff. I've talked about, you know, I have, it's a free accounting software, and I put all of my daily sales, my expenses, my inventory adjustment, everything goes into that software every day. So at the end of the year at tax time, I can just run a report that shows me I spent this much on fees, I spent this much on shipping, I spent this much on bubble mailers and supplies, I made this much in sales, I did this much in returns. All that information is, I just hit a couple of buttons and boom, I've got a printout of all that I can use for my taxes. So finding whether you do that or you have a spreadsheet or some way throughout the course of the year to stay on top of that so that come April, it's not this like hair-pulling drama to get your taxes done is, at least for me, highly recommended. Big Dre says, currently promoting my niche store listings, dynamic, no cap, just like my primary store, and we'll add the store promoted listing after the 100. It will be expensive, but my competitors are huge. So there you go. Definitely keep us posted on how that goes for you once you've hit that number and you start doing that. I'm always curious how those different types of promotions, every time somebody does where they've tried the eBay promotion for promoted listings priority, where they get like the $200 credit and they'll do a video about what their result was. I'm always curious what people get from those programs, again, to decide whether it makes sense to make an effort to do it with my business or not. Big Gray, I'll be activating vicious chihuahua mode. There you go. Cameron D says, impressed by your organization. See, that comes from, 30 years in retail management, like managing big box stores like Best Buy and whatever. I just kind of developed that skill about how you had to run a business, to follow their rules. And those are things that I was able to transfer over when I decided to do my own thing. It just saves so much time. Mel says, yes, if I put the info into my program every quarter, I too can run a report at the end of the year. Yep. And again, like I said, I'm literally every day. I get on my phone, I go pull my orders, I pack them up, I get into eBay, load everything into a spreadsheet so that I can see like individual line by line. Am I making money? Am I not making money on a particular item? Then I take all of that data and I'll enter that into my accounting software. It sounds like a convoluted process, but those 2 steps allows me to catch any mistakes. If I fat-fingered something on one and I put it in correctly in the other one, I'll catch where there's a mistake. I've found any number of times where I'll be off a couple of pennies here, a couple of dollars there because I hit a 3 instead of a 4 or whatever. So I've got a process, again, however you do it, having a process that is repeatable and efficient and allows you to do things well and catch mistakes, super important. But that's the third thing I do in the morning is enter everything into my accounting software, from what I paid to Pirate Ship for shipping, what credit card that went on, what I made from eBay, what I paid to eBay or Etsy in fees. All of that is entered every morning before I get over here to the photo booth and start working on these listings. Cameron says, if it's not interesting, I won't do it. Yes, I would prefer not. I mean, accounting's not. I mean, I say that. My niece is an accountant. She's a CPA. She loves it. Not my cup of tea. It's not what I want to do. But I don't want to be that guy on Facebook on April 14th freaking out because I'm trying to sort through a year's worth of sales and expenses. So I take the pain in small doses daily to not have to deal with a lot of pain all at once. Every day I need to streamline. I have a hard time fitting all the things into a day. It goes back again to what I was just talking about, a process or a routine. All of this was developed over a long period of time for me. How my spreadsheet went through several iterations before I found the formula that allowed me to get the data in a format that I wanted, that I could then move quickly and easily into the actual accounting software. It allows me to keep track of my shipments, and it just allows me to be more organized. But that's a system that developed over time, and it's become a habit. So I don't really even think about it anymore. I just know this information's going here, and then that information's moving over here, and then I'm done, and I can get on to the next thing. And whatever they say, it takes 21 days to build a habit. Getting, like we talked about, to bring it full circle at the beginning of the show, just getting started, whether you do it once a day, once a week. I'm doing enough volume. I don't want to wait a week to put all that in. It's easier for me to just do it every day and have it knocked out, but everybody's business would be different. Shoeboxes are a fundamental small business practice. Absolutely. Major Win, good morning. Good to see you. Some quick hellos just as we're ready to check out for the day. Sorry. As always, I appreciate everybody who came out today to spend a little time here, participated in the chat. Again, my next Whatnot show is tomorrow. History and military books, 20 of them that we'll be doing over on Whatnot. I will probably have a podcast for you this weekend, but it may be a short one with the holiday. We'll see how things go from there. And then we'll be back next Wednesday live with something. 2 Whatnot shows next week. If you're into kids books, we'll have 2 kids books shows next week. Some more quick hellos from Major Win to Mary and Mike Metco. Guys, again, thank you so much for coming out. As always, I appreciate it. And now it's time to sell. Thanks, guys.